Hello, and welcome to Memphis Light Gas and Water's Power Pivot. Power Pivot is a new online series where we talk to Memphis area small business owners and hear their stories about how they have pivoted to a new normal during this pandemic. Local industry experts join us to give advice in areas such as finance, accounting, marketing, real estate, small business grants, legal issues, health and safety, and energy savings. I'm asking the Zoom attendees right now, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section. And also the Facebook viewers, please put your questions in the comments section. Our guest today is Sandra Worlow. She is the Director of Employee Assistance Program and Community Behavioral Health at Methodist LeBonheur Healthcare. Welcome so very much, Sandra. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for asking me, Gail.
Okay, so the holidays generally are stressful times for many of us, but extremely stressful for small business owners during this pandemic. Business owners have been working tirelessly and creatively to keep their doors open. Today, Sandra is going to offer some great insight on how self-care can ward off burnout. So Sandra, can we start with you talking about, what you do and your role and some of the most helpful and useful advice that you're going to be providing to our business owners, and possibly others can benefit from some of your advice.
Okay. Yeah, we're 9 months into this pandemic now, and I hate to use this word over and over, but it's just unprecedented times. None of us have ever been through anything like this in our lives, and we had no idea it would last this long, and much less be surging like it is again. We all thought it'd be over by now. We're trying to find our new normal. We don't even know what normal is anymore, and no idea of what our new normal is going to be. I don't know about the business owners out there, but a lot of my employees are still working remotely from home. Having just come on to EAP the end of August, it's been difficult for me to even really get to know my team members very well because of them working remotely and providing virtual counseling from their homes. Our office suite is pretty compact, and so it's not really safe for everyone to be here. And I don't know if business owners have ran into that too. But a couple of my counselors got tired of working from home. They felt isolated and were getting pretty stressed. Because when you're working from home, you've got yourself shut in your office and no one to interact with. And so they wanted to come back to the office on a full-time basis, just so they would have someone to interact with. We made it through the Thanksgiving holiday, and I'm sure for everyone that it was much different than it has been in the past. I know my own gathering, it was just me and my middle daughter and a couple of friends of hers who weren't able to go home to Florida. That's not what Thanksgivings had looked like in the past, and it really makes me long for those holidays that we used to have.
We take a lot for granted.
Right, we did. I miss going to my grandma's on Christmas Eve and having her homemade noodles and doing fireworks off of her front porch and playing Christmas bingo. All those traditions and things are so different this year. And the holidays are a difficult time for people in general that suffer from depression, anxiety.
Isn't it considered also one of the highest times of the year where people commit suicide?
Yes, it is, because due to the loneliness and just feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, and we're seeing that a lot more with the pandemic going on, because everyone is more isolated. Personally, my ex-husband committed suicide back in May.
I'm so sorry Hear
Thank
that.
you. I mean, very unexpected, but it seems like it's been just a real common occurrence, like you said,
Hmm.
during the pandemic. Um, you know, and from what I understand, we didn't communicate much, but he had been depressed for some time.
So
Uh,
how are you doing, Sandra, dealing with all of that, and especially during these times? I mean,
well,
I know that was so traumatic for you at any time, but
it is, but I've always been better at telling people how to take care of themselves, but I wasn't
yeah,
really good at practicing self-care myself.
yeah.
So back in mid-April, just a couple weeks before he committed suicide, my daughter had been walking for about a year, several miles a day, and
Hmm.
so I had gained a few pounds with the pandemic. I think a lot of people have gained weight this
Yeah.
year, and I was in a stressful job, and I needed to take care of myself. So I decided to start walking with her. And so I'm still walking. We walk, I shoot for 20 miles a week. We walk 3 miles every day after work.
Yes, Vicky.
And that is something that I feel like has really helped to
Yeah.
keep me
Hmm.
sane through,
Okay.
through this. And that's something that I wish more people would take advantage of. We're really good at taking care of others, but we tend to put ourselves on the back burner. Small business owners, not only do they have their families that they're worried about, they've got their employees and their families
And
that
I'm
they're worried
constantly, you're absolutely right. I am constantly seeing on the news so many owners, business owners talking about um, their employees. They really care about them. And some who have been able to afford to have paid them
about. Mhm.
even when they were closed down or that when they were receiving little business. But they showed their care and compassion because actually those are dollars they could have saved for themselves. But you know, they are trying to help everybody. And
Right,
so
right. Back when I got my stimulus check, I put it back into the community. The guy who does my lawn work, he's self-employed. So I hired him to clean up my backyard, clean my gutters, and because he was struggling. He's got a wife and two small children. And
wow.
so, I felt it was important to support his small business, and I recommended him to other friends, trying to get him more business because I want him to be able to keep his business open, and he just came back again last week and did my fall cleanup. But,
Mhm.
it's important that we support those small business owners. Uh,
Yeah, and so when I was working at the office every day, I went out for lunch every day, and so basically since I've been telecommuting, and then once the restaurants, were shut down, and then they opened back for a little bit, and so what I have been making a special effort of doing, and I try to encourage others, is to even if you don't want to go sit down in a restaurant, order something to go. That helps our
absolutely.
economy. It helps keep people working. And so I make it my business to do what I can to go to restaurants and still buy here or there because we're not spending, at least let me speak for Gail, it's not spending like I normally spend, but during these times, I don't have to wear the clothes that I was wearing every day to work. And so that's
Right.
saving on cleaning and gas. And so, I'm trying to do what I can, and I'm hoping everyone is doing what they can because it's helping our community. It's helping the
Absolutely.
economy. And when others are not working, it impacts everything. Car notes, house notes,
Oh, absolutely.
what they can do for their families. I was reading something or saw on the national news that at the end of, I don't know if it's the end of this month, more people are going to be put out of their homes. Um,
Absolutely.
the banks are them out. So,
I agree about supporting, the local businesses. I've always been a good tipper, but I think I'm an even better tipper
yeah,
than this.
exactly.
You know, I picked up something to go the other day and gave them a $10 tip, and they're like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, you know, keep it up.
And also the service sometimes may not be as well as it used to be because of they may not have as many employees as that, you know, to provide the service. So I'm hoping that people will be patient with that because I think people are doing the best that they can and that they understand the importance of having customers. I know the places I frequent and stuff, they are just happy to see any of us coming in, you know.
Right. And we don't know with this recent surge if things might have to shut back down again. I mean, it's going to depend. And I saw where it's really going to be around December the 15th before we see all of the fallout from the Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And you know, I saw on the news where 1.1 million people, over 1.1 million people traveled by air, went through security gates and airports the day before Thanksgiving. And that scared me to death when I saw that statistic. You know, we've got to be careful. You know, I had someone the other day say, well, we've got to live our lives. And I said, yeah, we've got to live our lives, but we've got to make sure we have a life to live 3 months from now.
Well, and also people talk about, well, I was just around, you know, just family or one person. It only takes one person to get it from. And if people don't, I guess they don't think that even though they have that attitude about I still got to live. Yeah, but you could be asymptomatic and you're not just impacting your life, you're possibly impacting the lives of others, your family members, your friends. Right. And it's not just about me and mine and whatever. It's just not about me anymore with this virus. No. Someone was telling me about this young lady, and many people are going to have to live with this the rest of their lives. She had gone somewhere. She came back. She went home. She gave it to her mother. Her mother died. Yeah. That's going to be that was traumatic for her. That's something she's got to live with the rest of her life.
I've seen similar stories like that. One of my counselors went to a funeral a couple of weeks ago, and I think at least 4 or 5 people, including herself, have all tested positive for COVID since the funeral. You know, thankfully she was working remotely, so she hadn't been around anyone in the office, so we didn't have to worry about, you know, her infecting others. But you know, you couldn't pay me to go to a funeral right now or a large gathering of any kind.
And the sad thing is too, some people are coming out after a period of time, okay, and some people are dying. But one thing I know for a fact, if I get it, I don't know if I'm going to live. If I live, am I going to have long-term health problems as a result of it? Or if I'm going to be one of the people who dies? We don't know. And it's happening to people of all ages.
Well, I'll be 60 in January, and so that really bumps me up into a higher risk. You know, my daughter has lupus, and she's the one I walk with every day. She works for Methodist also, and she's working remotely and has been since March. But I'm very careful about my comings and goings and who I'm around and what I do, because it would devastate me if I were to get COVID and infect her, because she has a compromised immune system already.
You know? So let me ask you, when patients come in, when people come in to talk to you, what do you say to them regarding these times?
We do a lot of listening. Now, no one's coming in, everything's virtual.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But we're hearing a lot of anxiety. So, you know, trying to teach them some coping skills to cope with the anxiety, encouraging a lot of self-care, but really just listening. You know, that they're so anxious and they've got so much built up. You know, we see, you know, clients from all walks of life. You know, we've got a lot of teachers. Their anxiety went through the roof, you know, as they were talking about school going back into session in the fall. And now with talks of going back in person in January. Their anxiety is through the roof. Anyone that works in healthcare, and they're around it every day. I'm going to one of our hospitals in the morning because, and talk with the critical care nurses because their ICU beds are staying full. They're exhausted, they're emotional. And I'm just going to provide support and just to listen, give them an ear. That's what I'm going for.
So you talked about the nurses,
Mm-hmm.
and we constantly hear about employees on the front line.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted a story yesterday, and somebody called me, and I post long stories because sometimes people don't like to click on links and stuff. So this young man said that was one of the most interesting stories because he normally doesn't read long stories, but anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about this doctor who, he lived to take care of other patients, especially these COVID patients, and he died.
I
And
saw that on Facebook yesterday.
yeah, it was a very touching story. And there's a friend of my son's who was a nurse. Hey, Shay. And she just talks about the number of doctors and nurses who are dying every day that people don't think about. They don't think about them dying. They just think about this care that is there. And many of them cannot spend time with their loved ones. They have to stay in a separate place or a separate room just to make sure that their families are safe.
Right. And I've even seen where doctors and nurses sent their children to live with other family members during all of this, because they just couldn't risk bringing it home, so they were sent to live with grandma or grandpa or, just other family members to keep them safe.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having your small children away from you and what that would do to you emotionally and mentally? That would be so difficult.
I know. My granddaughters live somewhere else, and it's very draining for me, even not during these times.
Right. I bet you do a lot of FaceTime.
I do. We talk, texting and FaceTime and everything, and doing. And like for the holidays, I told my family, I said, well, y'all not gonna see me for Thanksgiving unless it's on FaceTime or Zoom. So
Right.
that's what we did. We did Zoom, and so I was able to see my nieces and nephew and my sister who lives in New York and people all over the country, relatives and stuff. We probably wouldn't normally, if we weren't doing the pandemic, I wouldn't have seen all of them.
Right.
But it was different, but we laughed, we joked, we had a good time. And that's the sacrifice many people are taking. And it's a safe and less risky compromise so we can get through these times. But let me ask you about some of the new regulations pertaining to restaurants that the health departments come out with, and they've gotten stricter on some of the rules. And some of the restaurants that had patios have enclosed them, like one restaurant that's out of Chevy Farms. It's really, they put up glass and it's still air open at the top, and they have heaters inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that some of the other businesses, smaller, will be able to afford to make their patios and businesses comfortable so people can still visit, and still, be outside, but not outside.
Right. Right. But then I've also seen stories where you have to be careful being in enclosed spaces, even out on patios,
Mhm,
because you've got your mask off and you're talking and
mhm,
everything, and so the particles that come from your mouth are more enclosed. It's not
mhm,
like you're sitting outside in an open area.
mhm.
It's enclosed, and so in a lot of ways it's similar to eating inside the restaurant.
So you're saying that once the mask is on, and then so it's in there, and then when you take the mask out, it
Well,
comes.
if you're eating, you're not wearing your mask, and while you're eating, if you're talking, you know, um, you can spread germs that way. But they just, they talked about just being in closed spaces. It's great with the patios, but just have to make sure the tables are far enough apart. Because I think it's important for people to be able to get out and go somewhere safely. I went to a restaurant back in October, took a friend to celebrate his 50th birthday, and they had the restaurant set up perfectly. I mean,
Yeah.
I think probably we were 8 feet. There was 8 feet in between tables. You know, the waiter was very careful. He was gloved and masked, and we had our mask on until we started eating. But I felt very safe and confident with the precautions they had in place.
Well, and this pandemic has caused many businesses to be very creative in how they serve. Some restaurants, you just scan the little barcode, and the menu comes up on your phone or iPad.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't even have to have a. I mean, even past the pandemic, just think about the amount of money they save on printing menus, because
Right.
people can just scan them and see them and order whatever they want without paper.
Right.
And so this new normal has caused many businesses to rethink how they do business. In a lot of ways, it's been it's more efficient for them.
Right. Right. Yeah. I've just been amazed at, you know, some of the steps they've taken and how quickly they were able to implement. I know even here, they had been looking at telehealth and providing counseling virtually, but then, you know, it had to happen overnight basically. And so it's amazing how creative you can be when you have to be. Exactly.
So how can people use your services? Well, I mean, what is the process?
You know, the EAP services, I think that business owners think that it's probably a very costly expense for them, but it's really not with the small business owners, and especially if they're a member of the chamber, they get a discount.
Oh,
But
wow.
it provides free counseling for their employees and themselves and their family and their own families. But we also, with the EAP services, we cover the household members.
Okay.
But it's all for the cost of the one employee. So, you know,
So
they may,
is that a COVID program?
a what?
Is that COVID? Are those COVID dollars?
No,
Okay.
but you know, we provide anywhere, it depends on the contract, anywhere from 6 to 10 sessions. We did have a small business that was offering 6 sessions, and because of the stress that their employees were going through with the pandemic, they increased it to 10 sessions for the rest of this year and all of next year.
Good.
Yeah. We provide trainings for the businesses that we have contracts with. If they have a crisis situation, you know, say an employee is tragically killed. You know, recently we had to go to a doctor's office because one of the associates there, her and her husband were killed in a car wreck. And so we met with the whole 22 members of the staff and did just a crisis debriefing with them. You know, we do that. But we can come in and just do the general overall training about the EAP services. But then we also have presentations that we have developed over workplace issues or, you know, just things that go on in the workplace that we could come in and provide education about. But really, I would love anybody listening to this, you know, to give our office a call and just request a quote. All I need to give you a quote is the number of people, number of employees you have. And, you know, I can get you a quote that same day or by the next day. And I think I gave someone the phone number, but the phone number to the EAP office is 901-683-5658. And that's all they have to do is call to get a quote. For people for business that maybe aren't interested in that, but they have employees who are having, you know, struggling with mental health issues. We also have the Living Well Network, which is under the umbrella of Methodist Healthcare, and it serves as a referral source for the community. If someone calls in and they're having marital issues or they're having depression, they can call. We do behavioral health screening to kind of figure out what type of services they need, and then we assist with linking them up to a mental health provider in the community. And that's a free service, but that's through the Living Well Network, and that number's 901-762-8558.
Okay, so you mentioned Living Well. So, and I probably shouldn't share this, but everywhere I go to the doctor a lot more now as I've gotten older. And I'm always asked, do you have a living will? And so I just kind of grab my head. No, I haven't done it yet.
I don't have one either.
So could you talk to our viewers about a living will, what it is, the importance of it?
Well, this is the Living Well Network, not Living Will.
Okay.
But the Living Well, I mean, we always need to have someone designated to make decisions for us if we're incapacitated, not able to. Even though I've made my wishes known to my daughters, that really needs to be down in writing. It really does, because I really have designated my middle daughter as my voice. But and like you said, the older we get, the more health issues we have. And so that is something that I'm really going to have to do in the next, couple of months. Is, first of all, I need a will, and then I need to do a living will as well, or a power of attorney, or something along those lines. But especially people with small businesses, it's very important that they designate someone to act when they're not able to. They have a lot to lose.
And so you mentioned Living Well.
Yes, it's the Living Well Network.
Okay, and so could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that's the referral source for
that's okay.
Yeah, that's for the referrals to behavioral health resources in the community. Yeah. And primarily right now, most of our referrals come from doctors' offices, but we're trying to get the word out into the greater community, because we know there are a lot of people out in the community, especially now with the pandemic and the stress and everything that's been brought on people by that we know there are people out there who need services, and we're able through the Living Well Network to link them to the services that they need. But that's a resource that these businesses can use also if they're not interested in looking into an EAP contract. If they notice that an employee is struggling, when you're around somebody every day, you get to know them pretty well. And if someone who's typically very happy and outgoing, all of a sudden they're quiet, and maybe they're late for a meeting or they miss a meeting, something's probably going on with them. One thing I've always done as a supervisor is try to have weekly, just kind of informal one-on-ones with my employees, just to check them out, see what's going on, see if there's anything that I can help them with. And that's one thing that the feedback I've gotten is how much my employees have always appreciated that, because they know that I care. And, being a therapist, I'm pretty intuitive. And so I pick up on things pretty quickly. And I've always wanted to make sure that, the therapists and counselors that I work with practice what they preach. I'm learning the hard way that you've really got to do that. And so I probably feel better about myself than I ever have, because I'm happy. I'm taking care of myself. I love being single and going home to an empty house. I don't have to talk to anybody when I get home except my dogs. But just
compromise.
Yeah, don't have to compromise. But just, that is practicing good self-care to me.
Yeah. And so that's how you define self-care.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I get self-care is going to be different for most people.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I can't speak enough for, exercise. There's nothing. Last night I left work late, and I really didn't want to walk, and didn't start walking till 6:30. But I was glad after I did it. I was dreading doing it because I was tired, but it energized me, and it helps me sleep better too.
Okay, so I do have one question
Okay.
in the Q&A, and the question is, do you know of services that are free, and if you are unable to afford, if free, and if you are unable to afford an EAP?
Uh, Both Alliance Health Services and Case Management Case Management Incorporated. I don't know if it's free, but they work on a sliding scale. They really try to work with everyone to provide the services. I know the Church Health Center, if you go to see the doctor there, they offer free behavioral health services
Oh,
through
good.
them. Mhm. So that's another option.
Well, and for many people, receiving any kind of help like that is stigmatized. So sometimes people don't get the mental help that they need, and they're going through stressful times, and things that they really do need to talk
Right.
to someone else about. Uh, so I mean, how do you deal with situations like that with people who just are kind of skeptical or concerned about the stigma of talking to people about their personal issues?
Well, some people are never going to feel comfortable doing that. I think the one good thing that's come out of the pandemic, it has brought mental health issues to the surface. And, it's recognizing the number of people that are suffering now from depression and anxiety, and there's more talk of it. Your celebrities are coming out and talking about receiving services. um, I remember years ago, I was going through a divorce, and my ex-husband told me I needed therapy, and he said, "I'll pay for it if you go." And I remember going in there and being really
Even though you're a therapist yourself?
well, I wasn't a therapist then. This was
Oh,
back,
okay.
I was late 20s.
Okay.
And, I went in there very skeptical, because of what I'd seen on TV about therapy and psychiatry and all of that. But by the end of the first session, I just felt such a sense of relief because it gave me an impartial third party just to listen to me and help me look at, you know, my thought process and then sometimes it was faulty, and help me, figure out smarter ways of doing things. And I saw her for 2.5 years. And when I applied to graduate school to get my master's in social work, she wrote me a letter of recommendation. And after I became a therapist and she retired, she referred clients to me, and so I gained so much from that experience. It just helped me figure out who I was, and so I think just having someone just to listen makes a big difference.
Well, as we come to the close of our show, I guess one of the things that I want to mention is that I'm hoping that any person, whether they have a small business or not, that they reach out and try to find some services that will be beneficial to them during these stressful pandemic times.
Right.
And so, as we get ready to close, what are some last words that you would like to share, or some tips that you would like to share before we close?
Well, I just think it's important to take care of yourself and your family and your employees. Um, I can't talk enough about the self-care, and that is something that we are working really diligently on with all of our clients that we are working with now, because people are neglecting the things a lot of times that make you feel better, dressing up, getting your hair done, things like that, putting on makeup. I put on lipstick today for the first time in months, because I wear a mask all the time.
Well, can you imagine how much money the businesses are losing from
I
this?
know, but the things that we typically do that make us happy, we're not able to do now. So finding other ways of practicing that self-care, finding little ways. I love to read. I can get lost in a book. That's self-care to me. I don't want to read anything heavy. I call them my women's beach books, but it's an escape. But find a way to relax, find a way to take care of yourself, find a way to take care of your family, but just be safe doing it.
Just be safe. And that's key. And during these times is to be safe. And I do want to thank you very, very much for taking time to come share with us today, some tips and information for businesses and anyone who's watching on how to deal with these times. And I'm hoping that everything's going to work out for you based on the experiences that you've had this year. And I want to wish all of our viewers a happy holiday and wish everybody to stay safe and mask up and social distance. And I want to thank all of the staff who have worked with us today to make sure this program has been as good as it is. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Gail.